Hi, I was a doctor in Perth, Western Australia for 53 years um, and saw almost everything. In that 53 years, um, I helped to bring 800 babies into the world. In the early days, when there weren't many specialists in Perth, I did lots of tonsillectomies and appendicectomies and vasectomies and lots of broken bones and other forms of trauma. And I had 500,000 consultations and home and hospital visits in that 53 years. I was very interested in what made people's lives happy and good and what made people's health and happiness bad. I reached some conclusions which I think are quite important. The world would be a far better place if everyone was healthy, happy, safe and productive. And the greatest factor needed to achieve that is universal good mental health. And the 7 most important things for having a good life are being mentally healthy, having enough good relationships, high feel-good endorphins brain chemistry, a strong immune system due to the high endorphins, a habit of smiling often, no addictions, and understanding any great traumas your mum and dad had, and their mums and dads have, and their mums and dads had. That's going back the last 3 generations, because many of the most serious problems in today's family came down from disasters in previous generations. Deaths, divorces, bankruptcies, wars, those sort of things. And if you're suffering mentally, especially if that's led to addiction, and addiction is really just 4th stage mental illness, there were certain things that I found were the most helpful in helping people to get healthy and happy. And I developed a whole system to help them get better. The first is the smilefixit.com site that has links to everything you need. And the second is the Mental Fix-It app, which you can download onto your phone by tapping its App Store or Google Play icon. It's free, and in 2 minutes it will tell you which 6 of our 100 under-a-minute videos will help your particular problems most. And there's no faster, easier, better, lower cost way to understand any mental health problems you have than to watch a 1-minute video on those problems. But of course there are lots of videos because there are lots of problems. I made almost 100 under-a-minute videos, and you need to know which 6 are going to help your particular problems most. And the fastest way to do that, do it in 2 minutes, is doing the Mental Fix-It app. And another thing that will help you very much is combination powder medicines in pocket dispensers. There's a pocket dispenser with powder medicine in it. But the present mental health system is very, very ineffective, and there's no possibility that everyone can be healthy, happy, safe and productive until the mental health care system is drastically changed. The tools that I made, which I've mentioned, were to deal with the two major weaknesses in the mental health care system. The first was 7 blind spots. There are 7 blind spots in the present mental health system. The first is we don't look for and find and fix causes. And if you don't find and fix the cause of a mental illness, it's much harder to help people to get better, and if the cause is still there, even if they get better, they're very likely to relapse. A second blind zone is that we treat people as if they're living and travelling solo, and they're not. They're all a part of a family, 2 families, their mother's family and their father's family. And nearly all mental health traumas and illnesses are family problems. And if the family aspect is not dealt with, it's very hard to help people to get better, and they're likely to go on and on being mentally unwell and to relapse, and they just make the waiting lists longer for everyone. The third blind zone in mental health is that we don't recognize that 60 to 65% of human living is habits. Our brain is so busy that it focuses on the difficult things, the new things, the changes that need to be made, but anything that we do over and over and over again becomes automatic and almost unconscious and very hard to stop. In other words, it becomes a habit. And including sleep, which is a habit, which is 1/3 of our life, 60 to 65% of our life, nearly 2/3, is habits. And you never hear that mentioned in mental health care, but a great deal of mental health care is helping people to make new good habits and to break bad old habits. We started to form the habits, the 2 most important habits we started to form in the first year of our life. That was our feeling habits. Did we smile and laugh a lot? Were we often worried and frightened? Were we sad? Were we lonely? Were we ever irritable or angry because of things that happened when we were babies? There's no perfect mothers, there's no perfect fathers, there's no perfect families, there's no perfect homes, there's no perfect neighborhoods, there's no perfect schools, and all kids suffer, and that affects their feeling or emotional habits. And the other very important thing that the foundations are laid in our first year of life is our relationship habits. Is our relationship with our mother a happy, smiling, loving one, or is it a grumpy, growling one? The most important thing in a baby's life is their mother's care and attention. But some mothers are very inexperienced and young, and they've never had a baby before, and they take a while to work out what the baby wants when it cries. Because when we're little, our heart beats and we breathe and we poo and we wee, but if we need anything else, we just got to cry. And experienced, capable, conscientious mothers know pretty quickly what we need, and they do it, and we stop crying, and they smile at us and hum and sing to us and talk to us, and we smile back at them. And that's called bonding. And bonding to our mother is so important. But some mothers are inexperienced and don't know, take a while to work out what their baby needs. And some mothers are just too busy. They've got so much to do. One baby is a lot of work. It's now believed that a woman who has 3 babies in 5 years, with all mod cons and family support, can still often suffer stress and depression. Well, I still remember probably 50, maybe 55 years ago, a woman came to see me and she was at her wit's end. She'd had a baby every year for 4 years. So she had a new baby, a slightly older baby and a couple of toddlers, and she was at her wit's end. So some mothers are just too busy. And her husband was a good man, but he had to go to work to earn money and support the family. But some mothers are not well supported, and mothers need to be well supported. Being a mother is a big job. It's a wonderful job, but it's a big job, and they need support. And the husband should be a support. The father of the baby should be a support, and the mother's mother, the grandmother, is often a great support. But sometimes the family's moved and they live in a different city and there is no family support. And sometimes the husband is so busy at work that he's very tired when he comes back and he doesn't give much support. Sometimes he's a drag, not a support. And sometimes mothers get sick. Depression is not uncommon around childbirth, and they can have other sicknesses, infections and so on. So there can be reasons that cause the baby to suffer and to worry and to be sad and to be lonely and sometimes to be irritable and angry. And another blind spot or blind zone is that what people really need to know, to find out, is what they need that they haven't got to have a good life, or what they've got that they need to get rid of to have a good life. But we just give them some mental health diagnosis. Oh, you got depression, you got bipolar, you got post-traumatic, and what they really need is to be helped to understand what they need to get and what they need to get rid of, and to be helped to do those things. And another blind spot in the present system is that we don't recognize how important it is to treat mental health problems early. A mental health problem, a serious mental health problem, is an emergency, because if you get it early, when it first happens, whether it's a trauma or a sickness, it's fairly simple and obvious what it is, and what caused it and what's making it worse. But if you leave it, as so often happens, partly due to the patient's fault, in that they don't like to admit they've got something wrong with them, so they don't come when a problem arises. But partly they don't come because there's such a long waiting list, and it's so difficult. 38% of family doctor consultations in Australia now are mental health consultations. And only 14% of medical students want to become family general practitioners. So consultations in my day were always 15 minutes or half an hour, but then they become 10 minutes, and now they're mostly 6 minutes, because 5 minutes is a short consultation, and the Medicare rebate for that is fairly low. 6 minutes is a standard consultation, and the pay is a bit better, and the Medicare payments have shrunk so much over the years. So there's not the realization in the community generally, and in the mental health care professions, that it's urgent to treat problems as soon as they start, because if you don't, problems cause problems which cause problems, and they get more and more complicated and difficult to understand, and more deeply ingrained. A person starts off with ADD, that makes life difficult for them in early childhood, and then they get anxiety and depression, and then they get to school and they're a problem in the class and they cop a lot of flack, and then they tend to leave school early with a poor education, and then it's hard for them to get a good job. They often just have a pretty menial or labouring job, not very well paid. So a major blind zone is the failure to realise that the sooner a mental health problem is treated, the better, the quicker, the easier, the more sure it will get better. And if you wait until people crash, it may take 10 or 20 times more work to help them get better. And another blind spot in mental health is that we don't help people to help themselves. Self-help should be a major part of mental health, and that requires people to be supplied with tools to help them help themselves, and with training, teaching to help them to help themselves. But we don't train them, we don't teach them. They don't understand that it's very important for them to learn to help themselves as much as possible. And then there's transgenerational trauma. Many of the worst mental health problems arise because a mother or a father or a grandmother or a grandfather or a great-grandmother or a great-grandmother had a disaster. In my family, There were two great-grandparent disasters. One great-grandmother had 9 children by 3 different husbands, starting at the age of 16 in the back blocks of South Australia, and then she died at 42 of cancer when the last 3 children were less than 10 or around 10 years and less old, and they were looked after by a big sister from a previous marriage who was only 6 when they were born, but by the time they had grown a bit older and the mother got cancer and got sick, this teenage girl helped as a second mother to them. And there was a great uncle who came back from the First World War with a lot of trauma, a lot of damage, became an alcoholic, didn't have a family, wandered off into the bush and got lost and was never found. And those 2 deaths reverberated to the next generation and the next generation. So lots of blind areas in mental health, and we're just getting further and further behind. The more problems there are, the longer the waiting lists get, the quicker we skim over things, and the worse everything gets. And the other great weakness of the mental health system is the tools. There's only 2 tools, and they've both got big problems. For a problem as big as mental health and addiction, we should have a whole pack, a comprehensive pack of very effective tools. But we've really only got 2 tools. There's medicines, and one problem with medicine is so many medicines are addictive. The commonest mental health disorder is anxiety, worry type disorders, general anxiety, social anxiety, panic attacks, obsessive compulsive disorder, all sorts of phobias. And almost all the medicines for worry, anxiety are addictive. Used to be barbiturates, there were many barbiturates and they were all addictive. And then it became the benzodiazepines. Oh, they're wonderful new medicines, yeah. Valium, Seropax, Mogadon, Xanax. I saw people taking 20, 30, 40 Valium a day because addictive substances, whether they're medicines or street drugs, they work very well in small amounts to begin with, but then they lose their effect. We develop a tolerance to them, so we have to take more to get the same benefit. And when we take more, we get more tolerance, so we've got to take even more, so we take more and more and more until we're taking heaps of it. I had 10 or 11 patients over the years who were taking 100 Valiums a day, and they'd stop working. They weren't getting much benefit from all these Valiums, but they couldn't stop because they'd become addicted to it. And if they stopped, they got terrible cravings. So medicines got the problem of addiction. The people who need the medicine want good medicine that's not addictive, that works fast, gets them better, and they can stop taking. But the people who make medicines want to sell as much medicine as they can, so they want you to take as much medicine as possible for as long as possible. If possible, never get well enough to not need medicine and keep on taking it. And the other problem with medicines is too slow. When you swallow a tablet or a capsule, it takes half an hour to an hour to go right down your gut and start to be absorbed and get into the bloodstream and go to the brain or wherever it's needed. Half an hour to an hour to start to work, and 1 to 2 hours before it's working strongly, which is just too slow for many mental health distresses and for addiction craving. Just too slow. And then the other tool for mental health is talk therapy, and talk therapy's got two big problems. The first is it's too slow. With talk therapy, it just takes too long to talk to a patient, to understand what their problems are, how they started, what caused them, what makes them worse, what keeps them going, and what to do to stop them. And after the first 1 hour consultation, they need to have repeat consultations, half an hour, 3/4 of an hour every week for weeks and weeks. Just too slow. And the other thing is just too costly. To be a therapist, you have to be highly trained. You have to have at least a 4-year psych degree from a university, and a lot of psychologists have a 6 or 7-year PhD. And to be a psychiatrist takes you about 10 or 12 years. You have to have a 6-year general medicine degree, some general medicine practice, and then 3, 4 or 5 years of psychiatric postgraduate training. So those people are all very intelligent. They've all undergone long, expensive courses during which they didn't earn much money, and they deserve to be paid well for their hard-earned skills. And if we don't pay them well, we'll have even less of them. But they're expensive, so the average person just can't afford without insurance. And in some countries everybody's got insurance, and some countries only people have got insurance if they've taken out the insurance or their employers take out the insurance. And the insurance restricts the number of consultations with a psychologist they can have each year, and it's almost never enough because of the cost. Not even the government can afford to pay for all that needs to be done, even if there are enough people to do it all. So what we have to have is tools. Lots of a complete pack of good tools. That's videos. There's no faster, easier, better way to understand your mental health problems than to watch a video on it. And mostly people only want to watch a video on one particular thing. So my old 7 to 12 minute videos, they stopped watching them, and now all the videos have to be 1 minute or under a minute. So I've got nearly 100 under a minute videos. And then there's live streaming, which is another fast video sort of way of learning. Live streaming on mental health on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, Facebook, and sometimes X. So videos, then websites. My website is smilefixit.com. I also have a website called mentalhealthvideos.com, but it's long and detailed and people wanted a shorter one, so in the end I had to make a second uh, website, which in one page you can see everything, and it's got links, and you just click on the link that takes you to where you want to get more detail. And the third thing is apps. I started, when I got very busy, I started to use a 20-question checklist, and that saved a lot of time because one of my assistants would do that, and instead of spending half an hour with a patient, I could just read their checklist report and talk to them for a few minutes, and it enabled me to help a lot more people. I wasn't trying to save myself time, I was just trying to see to help more people because there was such demand. And that was partly because I did dual diagnosis, and dual diagnosis is diagnosing and treating a person's mental health causes of their addiction at the same time as treating their addiction, which is what every addict needs, and no one else was doing that. I'm glad to say that now lots of people are doing dual diagnosis, but back when I started in the late 1990s, nobody was doing dual diagnosis, and I had to save time, and a checklist helped. But eventually we had to do an app, and apps are a lot of work and they cost a lot, but that was the only way to go. So now we've got the Mental Fix It app, which you can go to your phone and tap the App Store or Google Play icon and download the free Mental Fix It app in a few seconds, and then you can tap a choice of 3 questions, 3 answers for each question. At first there were 38 questions, and it would take people about 10 minutes to tap their answers, and then they get an instant report comes up on the screen of the phone. But several hundred people did that, but we needed and wanted thousands of people to do the app, and we knew that we just had to make it shorter. So we shortened it to 19 questions that they could do in 5 minutes, and now we're in the process of shortening it to 2 minutes, where people tap their choice of scores out of 10 to 12 questions, and anything that scores as being not a problem or a very small problem, we don't ask that question again. We ask an additional question, so we still go through 33 questions. But yeah, so videos, websites, the Mental Fix It app, and live streaming. And then powder medicines. If you drop powder medicine on your tongue and suck it, it starts to work in 5 minutes, and it's working strongly in 10 to 15 minutes. Your tongue is pink or red because the blood vessels are so close to the surface, and when you sprinkle thousands of tiny grains of medicine on your tongue and suck it, it gets into the blood vessels quickly and gets to your brain or to wherever it's needed starting in 5 minutes and strongly in 10 to 15 minutes. And that's much more helpful for mental health suffering and for addiction craving. And it's better than that because if the powder tastes very nice, your body soon puts together the nice taste, and then they're getting better 5 minutes later, starting to get better 5 minutes later. And when it puts those two things together, you get taste conditioning, and as soon as you taste the medicine, with the medicine, powder medicine reaches the taste buds at the back of your tongue, it starts to work. So it starts to work in seconds, and it's working strongly in 5 to 10 minutes. And also powder is much more flexible, so you can get exactly the right dose, because with tablets and capsules it's hard to get your personal best dose. Your personal best dose depends a lot on how much you weigh. If you're 120 kilos, you need a lot more medicine than if you're 50 or 60 kilos. And it depends on how well your gut absorbs it, and it depends on how fast your metabolism burns it. Some people burn it fast, the medicine faster than others, and it depends on how quickly your liver and kidneys start to excrete it. Once the medicine gets into your bloodstream, it's flowing through your kidneys and they start to excrete it, and it's flowing through your liver, and your liver starts to break it down and excrete it. But if your liver's not good, because you've got a big alcohol problem, or you've had a lot of hepatitis, then that doesn't happen. So you need much less medicine, a much smaller amount of medicine if you've got liver disease than if you've got a healthy liver. And if you get the right amount of medicine, it works well and you don't get side effects. But if you get too much medicine, you get side effects. If you don't get enough medicine, you don't get better quickly enough, or maybe don't get better at all. And with powder medicines, it's easy to mix 2, 3 or 4 different powder medicines together, which you've got in your pocket, and you take them all at once, because if anyone's got a serious mental health disorder, they've always got 2, 3 or 4 other mental health disorders as well, and one medicine rarely does enough for them. And if you give them a prescription for 3 different tablets to take, that costs them a lot of money. Each prescription is costly, and they get them mixed up, and they like this one and they take it too fast, and they don't like that one, so they don't take it. But by mixing 2, 3 or 4 medicines together, they're getting everything that they need at once for each of the mental health disorders, distresses, and for their drug craving. And the amounts may not be exactly right, but it's much easier and better and cheaper than multiple tablets. And of course it's much better than only taking one medicine when you need 3 or 4 medicines. So yeah, I regard mental health as probably the world's greatest problem. Talk about wars. What's that about? About mental health problems. Would we be having the wars we're having at the moment if Putin was a normal man? If there weren't gangsters in these countries, if there weren't corrupt presidents and prime ministers, if you're hungry in a developed country, it's because of your mental health problems. Nobody except people with mental health problems go hungry in a developed country. It's just absolutely essential that the whole mental health industry is completely changed, and that we don't have blind spots, We find and fix causes. We treat families, not just individuals. We teach people about habits and how to make new habits and break old habits. We help people to find what they need and want to get and to get rid of to have a better life. We get onto mental illnesses fast, early, which you can do if a person can go straight onto their Mental Fix-It app on their phone as soon as they have that car crash or that divorce or that death in the family or whatever. And we need to teach people and to equip them to help themselves, to do as much as they can for themselves, because that way they learn. The present system, so many people don't learn much about their mental health problems because it takes time to explain it to them. And so many people have disasters in their life which they don't really realize was because their grandfather or their grandmother or their great-grandfather or great-grandmother or a great uncle or cousin had some disaster that reverberated down through the family. It doesn't change, or your genes are important but not very important. It's your epigenetics, which is which genes are switched on and which genes are switched off, because not all genes work. Some work, some don't work. Depends which ones get switched on and which get switched off, and it depends on the feelings and the behavior in the family, which can be affected by traumas. So, well, I think that I have to stop now. So, I'm sorry that I don't know enough about the technology to talk to you, and I don't have time to talk to you. I'm so busy, you wouldn't believe it. But we're going to get it all fixed and up online. I've got a really exciting thing that I think will help people so much, which I can't tell you the name of it. Someone might pinch the name, but it's all a lot of work. So today is Saturday. I'll be back again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. If you've got any questions, any comments, any criticisms, how we could do it better, what we haven't talked about that we need to talk about, please send me a comment, a message through the platform that you watch on, or send me an email through my email for these things, which is healthestuff@gmail.com. healthestuff@gmail.com, spelt the way I pronounce it, but if you don't remember that, just remember smilefixit.com, smilefixit.com, our website, because the email address is there. So, all the best.